Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and also hopefully to encourage those of you that have been out there painting for a while to paint along with us. We're going to work on our acorns, and this is the second fire that I did on them. Now you, if you're an experienced painter, certainly could have done this all in one fire. Because you could have put the background on and then put all the leaves and acorns on. But I'm geared towards beginners, and so consequently, it's important that I try to break it down so it's a little easier for them. One of the hardest things I think when you're trying to decide what to do after you get this much on a piece is where do you go from there? Now, last week we talked about the fact that when you do a first fire and you put it in the kiln and it fires out, sometimes it's really hard to find this where you left off. And we talked about maybe taking a pencil and just outlining everything again just so you can find it real easy. But on the second fire like this, you really aren't going to have that problem. What problem you will have is where to add the depth. I'm going to show you that you don't need to paint the whole plate all over again. All you need to do is add the depth where it's needed. Right. This is my plate. And the first thing I'm going to do is use, of course, my very favorite color. Now I'll show you what colors we're going to use this time. We're going to use black blue, because that's my favorite color. A dark green. You can use a black green. This is a black green over here. As you can see in color, it's a little bit lighter than this dark green. So you might be able to take black green, mix a little bit of black into it to make it just slightly darker. You could also try shading green, but I found that the color didn't quite come out the way I wanted it to. I have cool shadow on here because I will be using that. And below it, I have air blue. Now, for those of you that have never used air blue, can you see it there? It's a really pretty color, very, very pale, but it goes on really nice. And for backgrounds where you're trying to blend the light into the dark, air blue is very good for that. Then rich brown I'm going to be using, as well as chartreuse and an orange, whatever orange you have. This is my South brown, okay? Put that down now and we'll get started. Now the first thing I'm going to do is start with the center section here. I'm not going to go all the way out to the edge with everything because when I put the background on it could impact that. But I'm going to go and add depth. Now depth needs to be added in areas like here and back in here where these acorns meet, up along this top because that's the shadowy side, and maybe a little down in here because these acorns would cast a little bit of a shadow, maybe a little here. And then in this fold, I'm going to reinforce it. Basically, you're reinforcing the dark colors. So you're going to start just like we did the last time, and you're going to go down around the acorn and down the center of this. I'm using dark green, and I'm only side loading, and I'm going to go down the center here and just reinforce that center a little bit. Let me get a little more on my brush here. Just reinforce it. Now, you don't want this line of dark and light, so you're going to put it back on and go back and just do here and there on the other side, just to kind of even things out a little bit. There we go. And you're going to go around this acorn here because, of course, it's going to cast a little bit of a shadow. Then gently feather out your color. I also like to add a little down in here. Yep, let me get, all right, go back up in here and just add it here. Yep, there and there. And maybe just a tad on the end here, there. And then I'm just going to pull it out very gently to the edge. Not all the way, because I want some of this light there. But I am going to try to smooth it out. And if you go up into the background, don't worry about that. Then I'm going to take and come down here and do this area below the leaf. Let me get a little more oil. I'm painting a little too dry. I think that's part of my problem. And you're going to go around it, come down the center of it. And just let your paint sort of dry off your, or wear off your brush, because you don't want it all the way down. You just want it a little of the way down. And then right here, this little acorn's going to cast a tad of a shadow. Okay, and then I'm going to go up in here. I'm going down the center now of this leaf, and I'm just going to pull it out. I'm doing the same thing I did on the other side, just taking my dark green and pulling it out. And then right here in the middle, where these guys meet, I'm putting a little bit of the dark just so they go back. So that's what I have right now. The other place I want to put just a little bit of dark before I get too far along so that I can rest my hand on the outside rim is maybe down in here. Just a little bit, not much, just a little. And then I'm going to put a little, I don't think I really need it over here. I might just do it there. Okay. I'm also going to put a tad of the dark green closest here, because you see I have that acorn, and it's going to have a little bit of a shadow underneath it. So I'm just going to do it there. Okay. Now, I wiped my brush off on my towel, and I'm just feathering this out a little bit, all of this, just so that it's not real harsh. Alrighty. Now, I kind of like the amount of orange I have on this side. I have quite a few. I'd probably like a little more orange on this guy. I put it on a couple of times and it just seems to fire off. So I'm just going to put a little more on like that. Just to give it a little, give it a little bit of, I got a hair there. There, a little bit of color. I got a hair there too. Alrighty. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my chartreuse. I purposely put the chartreuse on here so I can kind of help blend this color up into the rest. And I'm going to full load with chartreuse, side load with a little dark green, and just reinforce down here because I just want to have a little more color there. Doing the same thing again, and I'm just going to do it over in here. Up, here we go. Okay, so those are my leaves so far. Now I can start doing some of the background, but I just wanted to get the leaves done so I had a place to rest my hand. Oops, I shouldn't have played with that. So that I wouldn't be trying to painting in the, by putting my hand on this. Okay. Now, the background comes through here, here, here. And so I'm going to take my blue-black now, my favorite color, and I'm going to just put it in those areas to give it a little shadow. And I'm going to come down below those areas because I want to blend it into the background. I'm also going to put it over on this side. Oh, I'm just side loading with the blue-black. So you can see I'm not going to be doing the whole background. I'm just doing bits and pieces of the background to give it a nice kind of shading. Hang on, let me just pull this out a little here. I didn't do the acorns intentionally because I had a feeling I'd end up going over these acorns with my feathering, and I can always wipe them off later. Over on this side, it's going to be darker. Oops, let's get a little more dark on there, because this is the darker side. The sun's coming this way. And then again, I'm just feathering it out. Okay, now we're going to start going and doing the background. You can also use this blue-black if you want to add a little depth on your leaf. Okay, now we're going to come up in here. I'm going to use my bigger brush. I started out with my number 10, and now I'm getting up to, it's still a number, oh, this is a 20, and this is a 20 from Joyce Burlew. It's one of her old brushes, and I just love it. And I don't know if you can get Joyce Burlew brushes anymore. Now this one, though, tends to bend a lot as I use it, so I only use it for background because, like I said last time, it's hard to control. I'm going around the top here because I want where these leaves to come together to be the focal point. And in order to get a focal point, I want to add some depth. And then I'm just going to start pulling stuff out. Oops, can you see? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have turned that direction. There you go. I almost think when you're painting online, you should have brushes with super long handles so that they never get in the way. Okay, and here I'm adding some color. And I think I'm going to add a little in here. Oh, the color is weird on this brush. It's kind of loading to one side only, so there we go. All right, and I'm going to just take the end of my brush and feather. So there it is. There's the depth. And then down in here, I'm going to add a little depth too. Only because this leaf is obviously going to cast a little shadow down here. And it's easier if you look at it kind of head on as you add the color, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to see how it's impacting what you're doing. Now I smooth things out, and I'm going to go into my air blue. Let me just show you what the air blue does. It's a super light blue, and it will help you take this. Oh, I got to clean my brush. It's got too much of the dark on. It's going to help you take this out to the next level. The next level being the next level out here on the plate. This is air blue. Can you see I'm putting the air blue on right here? Now, if you don't have air blue, you could probably take your baby blue, if you're a new painter, and mix it with a little white and get just a lighter color that you could use. And I think that that would also help you get out here into the outer edges. In your cross hatching, you go this way. Oops, hang on. Got a hair on there. Use your candle, just the end of it, just press and lift. It gets rid of it. There you go. And then come back this way. Make sure your brush is opened up and completely flat, like this. If it starts to scrunch up on you, the problem you're going to have is it's going to give you really ugly cross hatching. Okay, so that's how we've gotten so far. Okay, now if you look at this carefully, there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to add a little color to some of these and a little more shadow to some of these little acorns and bring them out a little more by making their caps on one side a little darker, like here and here, and maybe where these come together and over there. I'm going to take a little light blue while we're talking, the air blue, and just pull it in here a little before that dries because I don't want that line there. What I don't want to do is do everything because I'll lose all the highlights that I have. So before I go any further on this plate, except that I want to finish out this side, because you see right up here, if you don't add more color, you're going to get a line. It won't blend out like the other side did over here. So I'm going to add a little of this and blend it out. I just thought this was a different color. I haven't done this in a while. And I don't think I have anything this color right now. And then that way, oops, I've got a line here. You want to get rid of those lines. You don't want to have an obvious line. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going to clean my brush. And I'm going to go to, yeah, I think this one. This is like a number 4, but it's a little rounded brush. I like this brush. It's one of my favorites. And I'm just going to put some oil and everything on it, you know, clean it and put oil on it. And I'm going to go back and clean off another hair. Can't win today, I'll tell you. There we go. Oh, no, didn't get it. There, got it. Okay, and I'm going to clean off these little acorns here and here and up in here. I'm going to just clean them off so that I get the blue off of them or any colors that are on them so I can see what color they really are. And then I'm going to take, and I'm going to put a little orange on them. And you say, why orange? Well, because I want them to pop a little. I like it down here. I've already, oops, not that much. I already tried it earlier. Just put a hint of orange. It's a little heavy there. There we go. It's artistic license. Whoever asked the other day, was I using artistic license on these? But I have to tell you, these look very much like the acorns my grandmother had in her backyard when I was a kid. So these colors are pretty close to what the acorns around here look like. I just want to give a little warmth to them. It seems like they've lost their warmth. So here, can you see those down here? These are the ones I've added it to. I haven't added it here. You see the difference? It does add a little bit of warmth. I'm just going to do it here, here. I'm just grabbing the very end of my paint. You see I have paint here, and I'm not going into the paint. I'm going down here and just grabbing the stuff that's off the end because I don't want too much orange on these. I don't want to overload my brush. I just want to give them a nice glow. Down here, a little glow there. I think that helps. Then I will take my rich brown and go back on this side, and I'm just going to add a little depth because they need a little bit of depth. I don't know if you can even tell I did it on those. And up here, I'm going to add a little depth. And over here, you got to remember which way your light's coming from. And right here. I'm just sort of using the side of my brush and washing over it. Watch very carefully. Here's a good one. I'll come real close so you can see. I'm just washing with the side of my brush just to give it enough color that it has a little more depth than it had. See? Okay. And this little guy here, his little thing at the bottom is a little messed up, and this one's missing. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to take my brown. So I'm not touching the whole acorn or the whole leaf. Here I'm going to go over on this side because I'd like a little depth there, a little depth there. Nothing more. Got my rich brown now. I'm going to put a little depth up in here, a little depth there, and a little depth there. Coming down over here, I'm going to put a little depth here, a little here, kind of making sure it has a shadow on it, on the cap, and fixing it up if it had a problem. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do while I have the brown, some of these little lines, like this guy here, he needs a little reinforcement. I think this one could use something. There we go. Make it a little thicker down at the base where it attaches to the acorn. And maybe a little in here. And then turn it and look at it and decide, is there anywhere else that it needs a little more color? Maybe this guy right here. There. Maybe down in here could use a little fix up. I'm not touching these leaves because I don't need to on this fire. They're not the main focus. Okay, so there's what I have so far. I'll pull it back. Alrighty, now we're going to go back in and finish up the background because that's about all that's left to this. I'm going to take my air blue. Now, this is my unorthodox way of doing the background. I'm slapping the air blue on. I just put the color on. I don't want this to be the only color. Can you see how I'm doing the color? And I'm just putting the color on. It's not smooth. I'm just putting it in there so that I can get to it and so that I have the color on there where I want it. Oops, I don't know how much I want over on this side. Let me get that off of there. Okay. All right. That's the air blue that I put on. Now I clean off or pat my brush so it's really flat. And I'm going to start and feather it out. But before I do that, I'm going to take a little blue black and just put it in here. You know, I like this yellow over here. I don't want to lose it. So I will use my finger to correct it. And over here, I'd like a little more blue. Side load my blue black and just put it over here. Okay, because it was kind of getting to be a line. And I don't want a line there. And now I'm going back on my brush and I'm just feathering. If you master feathering, you will save yourself a lot of grief in the long run because you'll be able to just slap the paint on and go. And that's kind of what you want to do. I know it's not what everybody does. But now, the blue black, I'm just putting it here and there because I do want to pull it back. Yep. So I'm going to clean my brush a little. Put a little oil on it. You never just go in straight because that'll be a problem. Get as much of the oil out as you can if you're going to feather. Dip it in your lightest color, just very little, and just start feathering. And because I have these rims on here, I have an outer rim and an inner rim, you have to watch the paint. You don't want it to get stuck in those rims. You want to make sure that you don't make it so that you see those lines. There we go. And you don't want big globs of paint. You can go right out. If it comes over the edge, no big deal right now. Then as you notice it's getting muddy, pat your brush, clean off the paint that's on it, and just keep going. On that edge, pull it out, pull it down. Keep going around the edge. We haven't done one of these plates in a while, and they're all so pretty. Except I have a brush that only wants to shed here. Okay. And I'm just pulling it out, back and forth. This side and then this side. And then right over the edge. Even though it's dark, it's a lighter dark than I usually paint. Okay, and now, if I want to make sure that I can get into the middle here without messing up my yellow, and the good thing is the yellow was put on at a previous fire, I go crosswise like this. Crosswise. I use my finger. And try to pull it across. And that will kind of help it fade into that other color, and then pull it down. All right. So I think that's about all I want. I'm going to hold it up and you can look at it and tell me where do you think it needs any more color. Oh wait, up here I see a spot that could use a little smoothing. There. Okay. The final thing you want to do, you can either do it with a silk, you can do it with a Q-tip, is you want to go around the edge, or you can use that eraser. And you know, I mean that sponge. This sponge that Candy sent me is great because it has a little indent. It's just a makeup sponge, but you can go around the edge like this. And as long as you keep it straight up and down, you can clean off your edge. Look at how clean that edge is now, see? And then I'm taking Candy's sponge and just sort of going through and making sure that I have it blended into the yellow. The yellow is the most critical because that's where you're going to notice, you know, the strokes and the lines more. All right, so that's the final product. I'm going to bring you back up. In the meantime, pick up those brushes, keep painting, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.